record. So we start off Tuesday already with temperatures in the 20s, and quite quickly with widespread sunny skies, those temperatures will shoot up. I think in some places by 10 a.m. we'll already be in the mid-30s of Celsius, and it's only going to get hotter. The heat intensifying across southeast Scotland into northeast England, central and eastern England, with temperatures widely here 38 to 40, perhaps 41 Celsius. Exceptionally high, unheard of temperatures. It is going to be cooler towards the southwest compared with Monday, and Northern Ireland also seeing lower temperatures. The air is starting to cool down. We're going to see that big change on Tuesday night as an area of showers moves through, and then those showers clearing the east for the start of Wednesday. Clear spells overnight, some wet weather pushing into western areas by the end of the night, but a more comfortable night for sleeping, although it won't be especially fresh. We're still looking at lows widely of 18 or 19 Celsius. A fine start for many on Wednesday, certainly a cooler start compared to recent mornings. Some showers around in the west first thing. Those will push east. And actually, it is another hot day in the east of England. Lincolnshire, East Anglia, 30 Celsius still possible. That could spark a few showers or thunderstorms by the afternoon. More typical weather for the UK on Thursday and Friday. Bright spells, showers, mid-20s at their highest.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
I'm Andrew Doyle. In a moment, it'll be time for Headliners, where I'll be taking you through Tuesday's newspapers with the help of two wonderful comedians. In the meantime, here's the headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Very good evening to you and welcome to the GB News headlines this hour. The government has won a vote of confidence in Parliament by... Excuse me, I must get my glasses. 349 to 298, Labour had sought to hold a confidence vote to try to force Boris Johnson out sooner. But the government argued it was unnecessary because the Prime Minister had already said he would go in September. Well, Conservative leadership hopeful Tom Tugendhat has been eliminated from the race tonight in the third round of voting by Tory MPs. The former Chancellor Rishi Sunak held on to first place with 115 votes. Penny Mordaunt took second place with 82 votes. Liz Truss and Kemi Badenoch also remain in the running for leader. All the candidates will face another round of voting tomorrow. It's anticipated the final two candidates could be decided as soon as Wednesday. Flights from London Luton Airport are back on track after the heat caused problems with the runway earlier. The airport had temporarily suspended arrivals and departures as they fixed the tarmac. Well, that comes as red extreme warnings have been issued for millions of people across the UK. Parts of Suffolk today seeing the hottest temperatures of the day so far, of the year so far, reaching 38.1 degrees. The heatwave also closed schools for the next 2 days and added pressure onto the NHS. The Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, says contingency plans, though, are in place.
Across the NHS, extreme heat plans have been published each May, the last one just a couple of months ago. So local trusts manage the pressures themselves. We're coordinating that across the ambulances. Additional resources have been put in place to surge more capacity to call handlers to support over the weekend and into this week. And we're closely monitoring the situation, and Cobra was an opportunity to look at those pressures across the system, just as we did at the weekend.
Well, those sweltering temperatures aren't just limited to the UK. Record-breaking heat has actually killed more than 1,000 people across Europe. The hot and dry conditions are fueling wildfires in Spain, France, Portugal and Greece, where thousands of firefighters are still battling blazes. Experts say France is facing a heat apocalypse as more than 24,000 people search for emergency shelters. And here the Metropolitan Police say a missing 14-year-old boy believed to have drowned in the River Thames near Richmond. They say rescue efforts have been brought to an end, but the search for the boy's body will continue. And they're urging everyone to take extra precautions after several similar deaths during the heatwave. They discovered the body of a 13-year-old boy in Northumberland earlier today. Robert Hattersley died after a day swimming in the River Tyne yesterday. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and on your radio via DAB+. You're with GB News, where now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight on this hot summer's night are the cool, calm and collected Josh Howie and someone who always brings the heat, Dana Alexander. How are you both?
Good. It's a great night for the air conditioning to have gone here.
Let's not acknowledge that. Let's not, because they wouldn't have known back at home. You've broken the spell, Josh.
Good way to get people into work is actually have some AC there.
I will fix it. Don't worry. Leave it with me. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front covers. We're going to start with the Daily Mail, which has Mordaunt's number 10 bid hits buffers. Going on to the Telegraph, and they have record highs, travel chaos, schools close, and it's going to get hotter. Bit of fear-mongering there. And on to the Independent. Ministers told to rewrite climate emergency plan. The Guardian goes with Johnson accused of checking out as Britain swelters in searing heat. Bit of a theme developing here. On to the Financial Times now. Arms London listing plan on hold after Johnson's fall sparks turmoil. The Times runs with Tory race thrown wide open. This is, of course, someone else dropped out of the Tory race tonight. We're going to be talking about that later on. And the Metro has get ready for the hottest day ever. That's quite a claim. And, of course, the Daily Star. And they're going with, and you thought you were having a tough day. Record heat due today and airport forced to shut. Cops give nudie warning. It's a bit of a mess, the front cover of the Star there, but lots of interesting stories, and I'm sure we'll be getting to some of them. Those are your front... Kicking off with Tuesday's Telegraph. And do you think climate change deniers are starting to feel the heat?
Well, if they're not feeling it now, they're never going to feel it. So the UK heat wave has recorded highs of, 37 today and 40 tomorrow. And temperatures could get as high as 43 degrees Celsius. So, of course, this is travel chaos for schools. They've even had to shut the runway on Luton because it melted.
So the runway itself melted?
Yes.
I don't understand this. So how is it that we can't cope with a slight increase? Because there are countries around the world world that are much hotter than ours. They have runways. Do we make our runways out of marshmallow or something? What is it? Why can't we handle this?
I don't know what it is. I think because these temperatures are unprecedented, you just wouldn't plan for this, right? You can, well, the way that I look at it is, what can you do? These are the hottest temperatures. How can you plan for, you know?
I'm just still confused why everything breaks down. I mean, so getting here, half of my trains were cancelled. I don't get why trains would stop because it gets a bit hotter. Am I just being really naive, Josh?
You sure there wasn't a strike today or something as well?
Oh, there might have been that too.
What's going on?
Okay, fine.
But yes, it's just because we are a country that's not designed for these kind of extreme temperatures, whether it's cold, whether it's hot. So other countries arguably have even built their whole days around staying inside in the middle of the day and all the other things that you need to do to survive and function.
Do we think, though, that the media is overplaying it a little bit? I mean, like a couple of days ago when they were talking about it's going to be the hottest day ever, and The Guardian was talking about how many people are going to die, and people are saying you shouldn't go out. You shouldn't, you know, are we just exaggerating this a little bit?
Did you go out today? That was crazy.
I was working. I was stuck in a basement.
It was crazy outside. I've been literally laying by a fan with no clothes on for like the last 3 days. I was excited to get here because I thought there might be some AC. There is outside.
There is outside, yeah.
So that was amazing.
I was just being like, what are they talking about, the heat? I don't know what they're going on. And then I literally stepped outside and was just like, oh my God.
Well, maybe we're just a nation of wimps. We can't deal with it.
No, we're a nation with no AC.
No AC.
You know what I mean? I know exactly the trains that'll have them as well. Certain overground lines in the Thames Link. If you want to get on a train with some AC, get on a Thames Link. All the way to Brighton.
Oh, well, fair play. Bit of a plug there. Tuesday's Guardian next. And Boris has checked out, hasn't he? Running down the clock. Josh, what do we think?
Yeah, so it's like COVID all over again. At the beginning, he's not been going to SAGE meetings. And so he had a farewell party for his close allies, all three of them, Chequers, the ones who are still left. And, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, look, what's the point? He's gone now, or he's nearly gone.
Nearly
so
gone.
what's the point of...
I want to see him sweat.
What?
I want to see him look more disheveled than he looks in cool weather.
He's got that blonde hair.
But if it's the case that he just doesn't... I mean, the implication of this article is that he doesn't really care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, he's checking out. He's
literally checking out at Chequers.
Well, he didn't go to the Cobra meeting, but then there have been other Cobra meetings where he hasn't gone to. And, of course, Prime Ministers don't have to chair the Cobra committee. I mean, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Instead, he went on to the RAF, he went on the Tornado. He's obviously watched Top Gun. He was like, I want a bit of that.
Oh, that was
He's obviously trying to fit as many perks in. But the thing is like, OK, I mean, why didn't you just resign? Why are you still sticking around? Is it so he can just have another nice month in power or something?
Well,
so he has somewhere to live.
Well, there's that. I mean, Chequers is beautiful. There's that. But,
yeah.
you know, this is an interesting question because a lot of people in the know and who know him will say that he's the sort of person that just wants power for its own sake. Mm-hmm. And that's why he would want to retain control as long as he possibly can. But what's the point of doing that if you're not going to actively sort of get involved? And
I don't know. I think there's a freedom. Like, my mother got called back to work in her retirement at the age of 62, and you should see how she behaves at work. She does whatever she wants.
Because
she is living the dream. Because they're like, "What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm supposed to be retired. So what are you going to do? I mean, who's going to take over at this point?"
And then maybe this is why Labour wanted this vote of no confidence. They're saying that he shouldn't be there. He's just got to go now. A lot of Tories have said the same. Yeah. But do you think there's something in? Do you think? I mean, if he had lost the vote of no confidence, that would have been a general election. He didn't lose, as it happened.
I mean, it was tight, though, 349 to 298. That's pretty close.
Relatively so.
He went faster than May as well.
Do you reckon, though, that there is a case for whoever takes over, that there should be a general election anyway? Because, you know...
Well, absolutely. Look, we argue about Brexit and stuff, and one of the things you say, and I can agree with that, is the idea that these kind of overlords who are unelected. Well, now we've got into a position where someone's going to come in and lead our country who's only going to be actually voted in by 100,000 people. That's not democracy.
Speaking of which, we do have a story now which relates very closely to this. So this is in Tuesday's Times. Tory leadership results. Josh.
Yeah, so Tugendhat is out.
Who?
Tom Tugendhat.
Yeah.
Oh, you I see.
Very good.
It was a quip.
Very good.
He's very nice, actually. I've met him. He's a nice guy.
No, I thought he came across pretty well, actually.
He did very well in that first debate, didn't he?
It's like he had nothing to lose, allegedly.
Well, you know, that is a good thing. If you're a backbencher and you're coming from the outside and people don't generally, you know, you're not as well known as the three frontrunners. Same with Kemi Badenoch. People don't know her as well. They do now.
I did.
They do now. I did as well, actually. But
yeah.
most, you know, they weren't as famous as the Liz Trusses, the Rishi Sunaks, you know.
Yeah. So Rishi's...
But they you know, there's a freedom there, isn't there?
Absolutely. Well, it was, but obviously it's only takes you so far. So what's happening now? Rishi, as everybody knew, he's gone 14 votes ahead. Liz Truss and Kim Badenoch, they've both picked up more support.
Yeah.
Interesting, Penny Mordaunt has actually lost. She's gone from 83 down to 82. So that momentum, which she seemed like she was maybe going to be going into that second place, I think that momentum's been lost now. I think she's been hurt by a few things. David Frost doing that interview saying that basically she was kind of useless at her job, and also the stuff about trans rights. And really, it's not about the position she had, it's just more the fact that she hasn't seemingly been honest about it.
She claims that her position on that has been consistent.
Yeah.
Various people are saying that's not the case, so they're worried about the dishonesty. And isn't it true, Dana, that this particular Tory leadership race, so much of it is about trust? Can we trust? Because of, obviously what happened with Partygate, can we trust whoever is in power now?
Well, I don't think that we can trust Rishi. I mean, he was a little bit too close to the cronyism, and I think one of the points that Kemi made was that he lost a potential, what was it, 17 billion with the, what do you call it there, the COVID alone scandal.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we can trust Rishi. I mean, I want Rishi to get in because I think he'll get slaughtered in a general election. So go
Do you mind
Rishi.
that? What about the fine? What about the Partygate fine? Does that bother you at all?
Yeah, of course it bothers me. I mean, it bothers so many people. I lost 2 aunts and an uncle, and I stayed at home for 2 years, and I basically followed the rules. So, no, I think they like to cut a lot of corners for themselves, and it's one rule for them, another rule for others. So, no, I don't.
Clear front runner, though. I mean, he went up. Kemi Badenoch's doing fantastically well. Big leap in the last one. And like you say, Penny Mordaunt down. So that's a surprise.
And if Kemi Badenoch, supposedly I just read now, she did great hustings this evening.
Right.
If she keeps that momentum going, and they're saying that she would beat Rishi when it actually came down to the Conservative voters, and that, I think, actually is Labour's worst nightmare.
OK, well, let's move on to this next article. This one is about the leadership debate being cancelled.
Yes. So withdrawals follow concerns that previous debates have exposed deep divisions between the Tory party candidates. So the third televised debate of the Conservative leadership contest has been cancelled after former Chancellor Rishi Sunak and former Secretary Liz Truss said that they would not participate.
So is this because of PR, effectively? They don't want the country seeing them squabbling. They think that that's going to effectively, scupper their chances at the next
general election.
Right.
Exactly.
But obviously, conflict is at the heart of politics. As long as they're civil about it, then it's fine, isn't it, that we see them disagree? Isn't it quite helpful?
You think it's helpful, but when you want that little taste for power, people get a bit ruthless. I think these debates, in essence, are, they're ruthless generally. But I don't think that coming out of the debates is necessarily a good idea, because I think this is the time when people really need to know the policies that people are standing on.
They really do. I mean, but they have to be so careful, don't they? Because ultimately, whoever wins is going to be in charge, and these other people are going to have to be working with them. Mm-hmm. So those things that they say, I mean, we see this all the time, don't we?
Same in American politics.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, this was meant to be on Sky News.
Yeah.
What I can reveal exclusively here, and I'd like to bring them out. Rishi, come out, Liz. Come on, we're going to do it here. GB News, exclusive. Don't hide. Stop. They're waiting for the air conditioning.
I would love for us to do that. That would be amazing.
That'd be good.
But do you think there's anything in this, in the idea that, do you think the debates have been helpful?
It's been helpful to find out some of these people. To find out who they are a little bit.
This is the thing. I mean, they're saying here, there's only it's the MPs that are voting, right? So why do we have to have all these debates? There are people saying, the Channel 4 debate was a mistake. Why did you do it? But actually, I mean, what you're saying, Dana, is actually right. I think that it's important that we know what they stand for. It's important that we do, because they're going to be the next Prime Minister, and we didn't vote them in on the mandate that Boris Johnson had.
People want to know what they're going to do with taxes, right? There's that big debate that they're having, whether or not, raising taxes is essentially austerity, right? Cameron's plan, or if, getting the tax cuts will actually get the economy going. So I think that's the big debating issue that really needs to be clear, and people need to say where they stand on that.
Yeah, I'm all for the debates.
Oh, of course, more debates the better.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, of course they should be doing that, and they're doing it because they're scared. Liz Truss doesn't want to do it because she came across terribly in that first one.
She did. She actually weirdly came across as nervous, and I'm very surprised by that, because I thought, she's got
a lot of experience.
Loads of experience. I was really surprised.
Yeah, and Rishi, I don't think, wants to, because he's in the lead. The only way he can go is down. So, of course, those two don't want to do it.
Yep. OK, well, Tuesday's Telegraph. And we know Prince Harry's not going to be king, but maybe he's pivoting into politics. Josh, is that right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not right.
Oh.
But he's definitely becoming more vocal, and he's definitely commenting on political issues, which, had he been a working royal, under that sort of title of working royal, he would definitely not have really been allowed to do.
Yeah, they're not meant to say anything, are they?
No, really. So he's using his somewhat freedom to suggest that he said Roe v.S. Wade, the ruling is part of a global assault on democracy and freedom. And he also says he's talking about constitutional rights here in the United States. So he's really embedding himself as now as sort of as an American citizen, or certainly part of America by using the word here, I think. But at the same time, it's like, I understand that Roe v.S. Wade is a very important issue, but it's really an important issue in America. It's not a global issue. Women's rights globally is an issue, but it's that thing of like, Americans or people who live in America have that sort of utterly solipsistic view of the world. Like, of course, if you're going to talk about this stuff, talk about America. Don't make that this issue is suddenly relevant to people in China and here and there, because it's not the case.
Dana, do you think that he should be wading into politics so much?
You know what? I think when it comes especially to the Roe versus Wade situation, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the 10-year-old girl who was, pregnant and had to get her abortion out of state because she was interfered with. I think, these are important things for him to talk about. Of course, he is a Brit, but you have to remember his entire family is American. These rules effectively can affect his daughter in the future. Do you know what I mean? So I actually think that this is something that's really important that needs to be spoken about, and I think, why not?
Yes, but would you say that if he was saying the opposite view, that's something you disagreed with, would you still say it's OK for him to weigh in?
I think it's OK for anybody to weigh in. I'm not going to stop him. The thing is, he's not really a working royal anymore, and I think anybody in America has, the right to an opinion.
I mean, he didn't actually say Roe v.S. Wade. What he did say, he talked about the rolling back of constitutional rights here in the United States. He could have actually been talking about the Second Amendment. He could be very pro-gun.
He could be pro-gun.
He did not say specifically.
I think that's not what he's saying, Josh. I'm going to stick my neck out and say he's not going to come out.
But his wife, Duchess of Sussex, said the feminist Duke had been equally despairing. I'm a feminist, but I feel a bit weird, like my wife just going around calling me my feminist husband. I don't know. There's something feels a bit weird about that.
Right. You're giving us an insight into your relationship.
I don't know. I just feel like that's like she could call my handsome husband.
Handsome?
Yeah, I'll take that.
OK.
My thin
Let's move on. It's actually all for part one. We have to move on now. Coming up in part two, though, we've got the merits of the licence fee, the Taliban's new recruitment drive, and a misplaced promotional video. I'll see you in two.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle, and I'm joined tonight by comedians Josh Howie and Dana Alexander. Let's get right back to it. Tuesday's Guardian now. It's being reported that the royal family have been hiding things inside wills. I hope they asked him, Dana.
Yes, generations of the royal family have concealed details of assets worth more than £180 million through a series of legal applications that have been granted in total secrecy. I'm actually surprised it's so little.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Why is it surprising that very rich families have a lot of money?
Exactly, especially monarchs. They never know when they have to make a run. Sometimes we forget Prince Philip was smuggled out of his country in an orange crate, right?
Is that right?
Yes, he was. Did you not? Prince Philip, the Queen's...
I remember. Yeah, yeah. I remember him. I don't remember the orange crate.
Yeah, that's how he got out.
Okay.
They smuggled him out in an orange crate.
I mean, is this a bit of a non-story?
No, it is. It's really interesting because, as you say, it's 180 million. But that's all of them. It seems like that's all of their money.
That's not a lot.
And that's between all the different royals. So, like, Princess Margaret, she left, they're saying, about 7.5 million or 11 million in today's prices. I just would have thought she'd have more, like jewellery and all of that stuff. This guy, Prince George something, Axel, he only left, like, £785,000. I don't know. I thought they'd be all loaded.
And what is The Guardian doing here? It's sort of actually trying to get the freedom to look into this.
Yeah, well, they got it to work this out. First of all, they got a calculator out and they basically just added up houses and what jewelry, whatever they'd seen. You're like, well done, Guardian. But now they're taking legal action because they want to find out the Duke of Edinburgh's will.
Okay.
But I reckon according to this, I reckon he had nothing. I reckon he had a shotgun and a couple of wellies. Whatever. I just thought...
But why does it matter? But as in, none of us are surprised that they've got all this money.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing anything illegal, are they? So
because anything royal is news.
There is that.
Yeah.
Anything royal is news. Fair enough. We're on to Tuesday's Telegraph now. Fan of the licence fee, are you, Josh?
Yeah, I think it's all right, but this could be an interesting way of going about things. This
Right,
report
tell us
basically
more.
says, as a licence fee alternative, instead, like the council tax, basically just charge everybody a fee, whether you use it or not, and then that will bring the cost down. That's one of the proposed models.
But have we not moved into a world where, people don't want to pay for something they're not using? And so many young people in particular, it's all streaming services. That's all they're interested in. And yet we're all paying for the BBC even if we don't. I mean, is that just outdated?
The BBC, yes, but the BBC obviously treads this very fine line. And what they're talking about is like the danger of it becoming an eat your greens broadcaster. What they mean is, i.e. that we're just financing it because it's just going to give us the nourishing stuff that we don't necessarily want but feel like we should have.
Okay.
So there is that danger. But at the same time, and they're also talking about maybe having a paywall system and maybe outside of the UK, people would then subscribe to it. So there are different ideas out there. The people who are on the board here are all people who actually used to lead the BBC or head the finances. So they're not necessarily anti-BBC. They are acknowledging that things do need to change. I hear what you're saying. But I think, if they could lower the fee somehow and if it was, spread across everybody, I feel like it's as an institution, it is worth continuing.
So this is the argument that comes up again and again when we talk about the licence fee, is that people say, look at the quality of the programmes that they produce. But isn't that beside the point? Because actually, isn't it about the principle of, as I say, whether people should be paying for things they're not consuming?
Times are changing and they have to compete with private channels, right? So I think it's really important that they are competitive and that they prove that they're profitable. Here's a quick question. What's your favourite show on the BBC?
Oh, blimey.
Right now.
I have no idea.
Oh, isn't that crazy? Right?
I like headliners.
Yeah, I mean, right. And I remember when they were talking about this debate about all of the great shows that the BBC has produced, and someone put a tweet out with all of these amazing comedy shows that the BBC produced, and they were all 30 years old.
Exactly, and that's why it's time to move on.
Or it's time to fire some commissioning editors. That's what it is.
I think it's important that we actually find out what people are watching on the BBC. I think as soon as they get into that market, they're going to be able to see through streaming services and things like that what shows are doing better right now.
They can see what's doing it. No, they're saying they acknowledge.
But do they care?
No, well, they do care. They're genuinely quite scared, I think. And they say, we agree we need to keep reforming, which is what we're doing at pace. Essentially, all I've seen from their reforming is that they get rid of BBC Three, and then they bring it back, and then they get rid of BBC Three again. That seems to be the most of what they're doing.
It needs to be a bit more radical than that. But
they need that. There we go, radical. But I believe the radicalness should come through their commissioning process, where you've got a lot of people who are very comfortable in their jobs and just want to keep their jobs. And I don't believe that the stuff that they're actually creating is worthy of the BBC.
I mean, why would you be afraid of a subscription service if you are confident in the quality of the stuff you're producing?
Well, they're not. That's the point.
That must be it, surely. Anyway, moving on now to Tuesday's Guardian and a lesson from Afghanistan's rulers in how not to motivate your staff, Dana.
Yes, and as the economy is collapsing in Afghanistan, women there, the women's from Afghanistan's finance ministry are saying that it's been suggested that they ask male relatives to replace them. On top of that, we're also looking at a huge cut to their salaries, which went from 60,000 Afghanis to 12,000. I mean, are we surprised, though? We know what happened with Malala Yousafzai for just trying to go to school. Taliban shot her in the face. I mean, this is a step up.
Well, when you put it like that, absolutely. But when the Americans withdrew from Kabul and you had the Taliban spokesperson saying, we're the new Taliban, you know, that our sisters are going to be valued as much as the men. And it's like, but it's the Taliban. It's like...
And of course they lied. And of course they've incrementally brought these different rules back in.
Yes.
And they're saying, you know, women can't work in the finance ministry. The funny thing is this woman who's being interviewed here, she's saying she's worked there for 15 years, she's worked her way up, she's got a degree. You don't just get rid of people like that and it doesn't have an impact. Guess what's happened? Well, their economy has gone down $1 billion from what it was. And that is a lot of, that's 5% of their GDP. So you've got this, they're trying to go back to their feudal system. And then it's having a massive impact on top of the issues that are already going on with people starving, crops failing and whatnot. So it's funny that they're going, like, and it's not just like, oh, well, you're smart, you must have a smart brother or dad or... That's not how it works. Like you specialise in a certain field,
aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the thing. Like, what was so surprising to me is when the spokesperson was saying, you know, we're going to be a different kind of Taliban. So many people were believing it. Such was the anti-American sentiment. They were almost like, yeah, willing the Taliban on. And of course, by the end of the day, they got rid of all their journalists on state-funded television. By the end of the day, and they keep reducing women's rights.
And now broadcaster women actually have to wear full niqab on air.
Full niqab, exactly. Right. So they're not. It's not in their nature to change because it's a traditionalist, ultra-conservative religious movement, right?
Yeah, of course. But on the positive side, there might be a good movie in this, in terms of like a sort of Milan. Do you ever watch Milan, where, you know, the Chinese girl, she dressed up as a soldier, as a boy? Mulan. Sorry. So they could do a sort of like the accountant dresses up as a man accountant. I don't know if it's going to be
or just bring your own penis to work. That's how you keep your job. Just set it up on the desk.
Look,
Forget about my brother.
You're now basically pitching for films now, you know. But there are sometimes great works that come out. Do you ever see Persepolis? You know, the film about the Iranian Revolution.
I didn't, but I will now.
It's really great, and it's about the way that women felt after, you know, all their rights were taken away overnight, effectively. So you can get really.
When Khomeini came in, in '79.
Really interesting. Sticking with The Guardian now, and precautionary measures against dementia are afoot. Josh.
Yes. So the FA, Football Association.
Yes. No, I knew that.
Yeah,
I did know that.
I just figured it out for myself there. They are going to ban deliberate heading of the.
How are they going to do that?
I guess there'll be someone on the side, a special heading referee.
Will they pull you out of the game?
This is for under 12-year-olds. Essentially, they found out that a study came out a few years ago that I think professional footballers are a third more likely to suffer from
3.5 times more likely to die of neurodegenerative diseases than age-matched members of the population.
That could be because they're heading the ball a lot, or it could be because they're footballers.
Well, I think I mean, look at boxing. If you ever want to see, have you ever seen Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali at the end of their life? These guys are shaking, and of course it has an impact.
The ball. So this is a good thing. It's going to take 2 years to bring in. They're doing a trial next year. If it works, they're going to bring in. They've already said for under 10s, I think, or under 11s, to stop heading the ball. So now they're going to make it up to under 12s.
How do they enforce it during the game, though? Is it a penalty? Are you out of the game if you had the ball? How are they going to actually do it?
Yeah, I guess that's what they're going to ban heading.
Well, why didn't they just say no heading in football, full stop? Because it's called football, not headball. I mean, it just seemed like a silly thing.
I think that it's just giving them more skills.
But the thing is...
They love bouncing on top of their head and doing, like, little
They
tricks.
do like all that. But I remember being at school and us practising heading, and the PE teacher would throw the ball at our heads. It does really hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy leather ball.
Hit it right here, yeah.
Yeah, and if you get it wrong...
Did you start crying?
That's a different... It's not relevant. Why do you have to bring those sort of things into this? It's not about that.
Yeah.
But it's about the principle. I was really surprised that it caused so much injury, but... Yeah, maybe they just need to get rid of it altogether. And they could use their hands instead, like Maradona did. And that worked well.
It's called rugby.
Oh, they've already got that,
They've got that one.
Oh, OK, fine. We're not really football people.
Soccer.
Let's move on to Tuesday's Telegraph next. And courting has changed since I was a child. Dana, what's this about?
Oh, my Lord. Low risk child porn offenders shouldn't be prosecuted, says the police. I mean, the police, we're looking at Telford. The last thing I want to hear from is the police telling anybody that anything to do with sex offense should not be policed. So the major report says that conditional cautions should be given while children who share naked images should be exempt. So this is kids sending their parts to other kids.
Is this the norm?
Well, we've read that because of the online safety bill, they were talking about how popular this is, or I won't say popular, but how prevalent it is. And yes, you have a lot of children now consensually sending photos to each other, and a huge chunk of those are under 13-year-olds.
Sexting, in other words.
Yeah, so that has overwhelmed the police to the point where they can't focus. They're saying they can't focus on, like, the proper pedos.
So there's two, OK. But obviously a child sending another child a naked image, however much that's a major problem.
Still against the law.
It shouldn't be, that's not the same as an adult who's sending
No, of course it's not, but it's still breaking the law. And also still spending a lot of time dealing with that.
And also when you start transmitting things online, these images aren't necessarily only being seen by these kids. Clearly somebody else has seen this. And what I really worry about is somebody who is predatory using this loophole to get ahead. Well, it was sent from a 13-year-old's phone. And we also have to remember, even if you look at the whole Ghislaine Maxwell with all of these girls that were trafficked, a lot of them were brought into the recruitment, into recruiting other girls and things like that. So
But surely it's right that children shouldn't be criminalised themselves. This feels like an issue that teachers...
I will criminalise my child if you ever want to send your bits to some boy. I will go crazy.
But that's my point. Isn't this a parental thing, a teacher thing, rather than a police thing?
And that's what they're saying.
You know?
At least scare them. That's
what they're saying. But they need to get ahead of the curve rather than dealing with them once these photos have been done and doing cautions and whatnot. They need to get ahead of the curve into the schools, and this is the kind of stuff that is worthy of teaching people about respect, keeping your body...
And also letting kids know that is against the law. They probably don't know, a lot of them. I think that's quite important.
Yeah.
And, I've been a teacher myself. There were some problems like this, but nothing like the scale that they're describing today. Yeah. But if they're talking about the police are overwhelmed with industrial... It says here, industrial scale child abuse imagery online. Couldn't they just stop policing offensive tweets and things like that? They spend a lot of time, waste a lot of their time on stuff where people just saying stupid things online that aren't criminal anyway. They're just stupid.
It's the number of cases that are going on and how much it's increased every year is kind of terrifying. And their charging rates have plummeted from 51% to 9%. But there's a 450% increase in sexual grooming offences.
Wow.
Over the last 6 years. So this is a massive problem, five-fold rise in cases in just 5 years.
Well, digital age, right? A lot of this is
absolutely.
To do with
So that department obviously needs more money. I'm sure it's an incredibly horrible, traumatic place to work, but a very important and necessary job.
Right, Telegraph next. And Keir Starmer really trying to distance himself from the Corbyn years, Josh.
Oi, Keir, what are you doing, mate? So this has all been going on my Twitter online with Jews arguing with Jews and whatever. Because
I haven't been watching your Twitter, so
this is what's going on.
Fill us in.
Essentially, Keir Starmer went to Berlin for a couple of days. Whilst he's there, he visited the Holocaust Memorial. That's a good thing. He chatted to a Jewish newspaper. This is all good stuff. But he filmed a video there with David Lammy, and it was like a sort of promotional video, and didn't mention where he was. He was talking about Ukraine, I think. And it's a very beautiful, if you've ever seen it, it's sort of concrete blocks.
I've been there.
Yeah, I've been there with all the... You go inside,
But you can't really not mention it. It's because it's huge.
Well, first of all, it's massively taboo for Germans. They hate people shooting there anyway, and there's a lot of inappropriate photos that go on and stuff like that. People think it's like some artwork or whatever. But just, the point is, it's not a snazzy background. Yeah. That's what he kind of used it for this like good-looking, cool, solemn background to make his point. Without mentioning the Holocaust, it was an inappropriate... If he tied it in somehow, maybe that would have made it different, but...
I mean, I have to say, because I was in Berlin recently, and I saw children running on it and jumping, because they think it's just like they don't know what it is.
Fine, yeah.
But their defence, so they've said that Keir Starmer wasn't ignoring that he'd actually tweeted out saying, I'm going to this memorial, and that they wanted...
He put a photo of himself out of the memorial.
Right.
But that is a tweet with a photo of a memorial.
So the problem is he should have said something in the film itself.
In the film itself, and that's why people have been
Dana,
upset.
do you agree with that?
Well, I just wonder how he would relate that to what he was shooting. Do you know what I'm saying?
Don't shoot
or just
there.
don't shoot there. Go to the park across the street.
Right.
I mean, the Germans, I think they've done a really great job with the denazification, and I wish that we had that type of reverence when it comes to some things in this country as well.
Well, that's all for part 2. Now, coming up, we've got the opposite of fine dining, a safe place for an oppressed subsection of society, and a dubious memorial. See you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital, absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle, and I'm joined by Josh Howie and Dana Alexander. Let's crack on, shall we? We kick off section 3 on the stuff of nightmares. This is a restaurant run by Karens. Dana.
Yes, the reputation of Karen's Diner preceded it. As we were about to enter Manchester's newest restaurant, one harried woman came out warning us they're honestly horrible, just awful. So this is...
That Manchester accent.
Your accent's better.
They're honestly horrible, just awful.
That's not bad, actually. I couldn't do any better.
Honestly, horrible.
So this is a... no, that's Liverpool. Anyway, this is a restaurant that sort of specialises in being rude.
Yes, and this
right?
is not a new concept. We had one in Vancouver called the Elbow Room. And the best part about those restaurants is when you take somebody and they don't know what the theme is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember I took this one friend of mine and he just ordered like a tap water and the waitress just yelled out, he's like, tap water over here. I don't trust people who get tap water. They always steal the jam. And then she just...
Amazing.
It's amazing. I suggest...
I get it. Like, I went to a restaurant in Chicago called the Wiener Circle, a restaurant. It's a kiosk where you buy hot dogs, and they were so rude.
The Wiener Circle?
Yeah, Wiener sausages,
That sounds
you know.
a little bit sexual, mate.
It wasn't. And they were so... But, I mean, I can't say what they said to me. I asked for a vegan, hot dog, and she called me and... mother something like proper kind of like
well, you remember Seinfeld?
Are you sure that was the theme? Oh yeah, the soup Nazi.
Yeah.
But I mean, that actually is why it's popular. But people want to go and be sworn at.
They have another one in Montreal where you're not even allowed.
People come to see my gigs.
Really? To be sworn at? To be offended?
To be abused.
So now there was also a Chinese restaurant that did it in London where they were notably rude. But isn't it a weird? Isn't the dining experience supposed to be peaceful and pleasant, and you know, I would have
I think
thought.
it's very, no, because then I guess it gives you something to talk about. A theme's always good. This is great. You get the menus like frisbeed at you, and you get.
This is at Karen's Diner.
This is at Karen's Diner. It sounds great. Yeah, someone had suspiciously luminous teeth, and they were all going like turkey teeth. They were taking the Mickey.
Are
This
you
sounds like
allowed-
a really fun job. This sounds like my ideal job.
Are you
apart from
allowed
this,
to attack them as a customer? Are you allowed to have a go at the staff?
Well, imagine
Ooh, that's
people.
really interesting.
Because at the Wiener Circle, you're allowed to do that. You know,
Yeah.
swear back. Can they do that here?
I hope so.
Yeah.
The problem is, it is Manchester. I wouldn't be surprised if someone headbutted somebody
Yeah,
or something if you didn't tell them what
This
the
is
thing
your
was.
phobia of the North creeping through again, Josh. Let's move on to Tuesday's Mail. And is alcohol on its last legs?
Yeah, a third of pub visits are now alcohol-free.
I mean, that strikes me as a lot.
That's a big.
I think they're bringing it in.
That's a big lot.
I think they're bringing it in. In this country, people stop drinking. Yeah, right.
They're saying it's a big
exactly.
culture. It's a huge culture shift. 2019, NHS found 60% of adults drank 14 units a week. Latest research says 55% of UK drinkers consume fewer than 10 units. That's a big shift in a couple of years. I know we've had COVID, and they're saying it's because of health issues. People are now starting to watch themselves. I personally think it's because it costs £8 a pint.
Well, it could be that. But, I mean, I've read lots of studies about how younger people are just generally abstinent anyway. They don't have as much sex, they don't have drugs, they don't drink, all that sort of thing. Is it just a generational thing, maybe? They're going to pubs and they're just having a
I think it's probably just a temporary thing. Life will hit them and they'll pick up that bottle. Watch
really?
and see.
Yeah, of course.
It's also like gastro pubs, and so a lot of people are going out now using it more as a meeting up with friends, but having a burger instead necessarily, or not using
But, you know, alcohol's how I get through my time with my friends.
mate,
They're difficult people, you know.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
you know, you need it.
Absolutely.
You need it to get through life.
I do not want to see anybody who I'm friends with without alcohol. Otherwise, I'll be reminded like what it was like being a child.
Of course, we're not recommending alcohol too much, but you know, a tipple from now and then. Tuesday's Times now. Maybe the future isn't as digital as we thought for the young'uns.
Yes, in the second quarter of the year, almost 1.66 million services were dropped from the likes of Netflix, Now, and Disney in the UK. And more than a third of these were directly attributed to people tightening their belts. 500,000 households have cancelled their subscriptions, according to Kantar, the market researcher.
So Netflix is losing a lot, but I've been told, and I don't watch much Netflix, I've seen like Ozark and a couple of things here and there, but the people who watch it regularly say that a lot of it's become quite preachy, and there's lots of sort of social justice causes and things. Not that people are against that per se, but that they don't want to be preached at when they're watching entertainment.
I had a friend who has a show on Netflix, and I also have a show on Netflix, I should say, and it's very not preachy. It's not my show, but I'm in it. But someone else, he said that the production staff said that they would prefer that it was diverse rather than good. That's running. That was from the showrunner, and so if that's coming,
is it
from
the case that kind of thing is affecting?
Well, I think so, because people vote with their money, as in all of these cases. You can still make diverse stuff and make it good, but if you're going to focus on your diversity over the quality, which it seems like they've done, then they're going to suffer. Also, they put the prices up a bit. So
is it also?
Well, they did and they didn't, because now they have 3 tiers, right? So if you get the basic one, it's $6.99. Then if you want to have 2 devices and a little bit of HD, it's $10.99. And then if you want Ultra HD, it's $15.99.
Right. So they're trying to do something about it. But isn't it also that everyone's using each other's passwords anyway? I mean, I know people who watch a lot of Netflix, but they don't subscribe. They borrow friends' passwords. And
you know what? My dad won't let me borrow his password.
Your dad won't?
My dad won't let me. He's not watching this, so it's fine.
Because he's watching some dirty stuff on Netflix.
He doesn't want you to see what he's been watching.
365 days.
If I might be so bold, as also the TV reviewer for the Jewish Chronicle, thank you very much, I will say that Apple TV is the one that's really killing it at the moment.
Is that right?
They're smashing it.
They've got good shows.
They've got very good shows. Netflix just hasn't had that level of hit for a while.
I don't think they have enough content. Before it seemed like they had not Apple, Netflix. And I think what a lot of people are doing, especially as money starts to get tighter, they're just going to get it illegally.
Yeah, well, you know, I miss the day when you go to the video library and you had to spend some time really think about what you were going to have, and there was always the risk that it might chew up the tape. That's much better. Bit of jeopardy. I think we need to bring that.
Blockbuster Video.
Blockbuster Video. We go now to a local paper. This is Peterborough Today, and historically there is a subsection of society who have for too long been ostracised and viewed with suspicion. Well, no longer. One cinema chain is bringing them in from the cold. Well, heat, actually. Heat.
Well, heat, yes. Bravo Showcase Cinemas, because, yes, the Peterborough branch is now offering free cinema tickets to ginger people.
What? So isn't this discrimination?
Well, I think it's ginger privilege.
Ginger privilege?
Hey, I think it will make up... Will that actually make up for a lifetime of bullying? That's
it. I've got 3 kids.
I got to see Thor!
Yeah, I got 3 kids who are ginger, but I don't say the word ginger. No, they don't. And I think that's all because of Ed Sheeran. That's been a massive help. But we don't say that they're ginger. Like, to them, we say, no, like, we never used the G word, genuinely, in our house. We would be like, oh, you've got, well, we'd say gold. Oh, you've got, like, golden hair, you've got whatever.
Strawberry blonde used to be.
Or whatever, but now we're like, no, you're proper.
So they're giving just free tickets to ginger.
So I'm going up tomorrow, I'm going to drive up.
How are they going to enforce this? You could just dye everyone's hair ginger, couldn't you, and get in?
I think the cost of dye might not outweigh the price of a ticket.
OK, all right. Well, it's a bit of an odd gimmick, but then, mind you, we're talking about it, so it worked. Tuesday's Mirror now. This is a terrifying... cameras in schools. I don't know...
Yeah, so there's furious schools put cameras in the toilets to broadcast on the TV screen in the corridors. So, of course, these are the places where kids are going to be washing their hands and maybe looking in the mirror. So just to make sure there's nothing happening.
Thank you for describing toilets to us.
Yeah, but it's not the actual
No,
toilet,
but it's not in the toilet. What I'm trying to say is it's in the area where they're washing their hands.
Also, I like the way you were... like doing it.
Miming the washing,
it out.
I'm here all night.
Dana, can you help me with this? Because I've read this article. I don't understand why. The article doesn't say why they did this, why they wanted cameras on the sinks with screens outside the toilet so you could see. Why would a school want to do that?
The only thing that I could think of, and we'll stay off of this, is if the toilet was gender neutral, right, and they wanted to make sure everybody was safe. I've seen toilets that, the ones that they have in Canada that my friend is a principal of, they don't even have a door. So the whole sink area is just exposed to the hallway.
Or is it maybe bullying? I mean, I know...
I would assume so.
You didn't go to the toilet because if you went to the toilet, someone would punch you. That's where the bullies hang out, in the toilets, you know, so...
That's where we hang out.
Right.
That's why I never go to the toilet outside of my house.
And you know why? Because teachers can't go in.
Yes.
So that's why they could do it. You know? And I remember skiving a lot of lessons going into the toilet just because, you know... Anyway, not about me. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? Why would they do that? And then also... there's another element of this story, which is about the culture of the school. And this school, apparently, there's been concerns because the pupils have been told they must never say no to a member of staff.
Until after class. And my son gets this a little bit at school.
Really?
Because, look, just in that, teachers are not perfect, as you know.
What are you saying, Josh?
Look, we're all human. We all make mistakes. Sometimes a kid gets blamed for something that he wasn't part of or not.
Yeah.
You should be able to, and as it said here, respectfully... argue your case, because that's what life is like.
I suppose what they're saying is the teachers have to be able to maintain some authority in the classroom.
To a degree.
Like if a kid's just saying, no, I'm not going to do that work, I'm not going to... That's no good, is it?
No, absolutely. But when there are genuine cases for disagreement or whatever, I feel like it's more beneficial to be able to teach them to make their case in a respectful manner.
OK, we're going to move on now to Tuesday's Telegraph. We know that Jackie Chan does all his own stunts, but maybe there's a limit to cinematic realism, Josh.
Yeah, this is not good. He is under fire for using a bombed Syrian town as a set for a Chinese film. And activists are very annoyed because they're literally filming on top of destroyed... There might even just...
Bodies,
underneath the rubble still. And also it lends legitimacy to the Assyrian regime, which, you know...
China supports.
Exactly. Which murdered its own civilians.
Well, no, but Jackie Chan's been in trouble because earlier this year he said that he wanted to join the brilliant Communist Party of China. So he's already...
He's fully sold out. He's fully paid up.
But this article is also saying that actually this isn't a new idea and that for filmmakers it's quite appealing to go to actual war zones because it's so cheap. Because to recreate a bombed city for a film is massively expensive.
Of course.
But if you get a real one...
But when you're paying the money to the people who actually did the bombing and did the murder...
I mean, that's where ethically, surely...
I thought it was interesting because it was all about the Yemen evacuation in 2015. They're like, well, it's too dangerous to film in Yemen. It's like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think so let's film in Syria instead.
Yeah.
I mean, the point you make about, you know, there could still be bodies there under the rubble. I mean, it just feels...
It certainly goes against what you think of his image, which is this kind of jovial, cheeky...
He's brilliant. I used to watch his films endlessly as a child.
I had the video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo.
Very disappointing, isn't it, when your heroes misbehave like this. Misbehave.
But join
His last film was terrible.
Was it? Yeah, join the Communist Party. that sort of thing. Anyway, Tuesday's Metro now, and it turns out if you introduce wild bison into an environment, the consequences can be felt for generations. So, whose is this?
This
Dana?
is mine. So wild bison are now freely roaming in the UK for the first time in 30,000 years.
Wow.
So conservationists and rewilding experts have hailed the 1.12 million scheme as biodiversity boosting magic. So I think they've introduced 3 female bison and 1 male, so it's kind of like a sister wives type of situation. And they wanted to keep, they wanted to keep them quite diverse biologically, so that to have better offspring.
So this rewilding idea, so if you introduce a species such as, they're talking about wolves as well elsewhere, but if you reintroduce bison, it has a knock-on effect through the whole ecosystem. Apparently, there's something in this article about how the way that bison clear tracks through the forest is a very natural way to enable other animals to move about, and it has these incredible knock-on effects. So this could be quite interesting.
The animals are set to make the forest more varied, spread seed, and create wetter areas, which will store carbon and reduce flooding.
So there's all sorts of good reasons to do this. Are bison not... Bison or bisons? You'd say bison, right?
Bison. Bison.
Are they not dangerous?
Bison has 2 S's.
Well, that's why I don't go walking outside of parks.
Well, but they're talking about also introducing wolves into, say, Scotland. And if I'm wandering through a park and a wolf shows up, that's a worry, right?
Yes. Train spotting's a worry. I can't even walk through a cemetery in Glasgow, never mind buck up on a wolf.
Yeah,
Are
exactly.
you kidding
Glasgow
me?
is scary enough. You add wolves to the mix.
Yeah. And I mean... bisons. Personally, I think what they're doing is they're gearing up. I think next we're going to get some dodos.
Right.
Then it's finally Jurassic Park.
No, if you're cloning a dodo, I would be all for that. Because bring them back.
Feed them to the wolves.
What are those green birds that they have? I see them are they called Orville?
No, that's
Sorry.
a puppet. The green...
There's like these bright green birds that you can see. They're wild. You can actually... They're free, I should say, just kind of by Buckingham Palace when you go and,
Pigeons.
They're these bright green birds.
But bring them back. That brighten the place up a bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a huge, what was it, a big flood or hurricane that happened in Miami, which broke what do you call that? An aviary.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of the birds that broke out, and now they're just living their life in Miami.
This is the wonderful thing about the way animals work. So I was in Capri quite recently, and there was a film there a few years ago which featured a couple of goats, and the film crew left the goats behind, and now there are hordes of these wild goats up in the mountains. I got trapped by them, by about 60 goats.
Oh.
They sort of cornered us, and we couldn't get down the trap. We had to wait for these goats.
I got caught by antelopes once.
Yeah.
It is scary.
It can be.
They're intimidating.
If anything wants to buck up on me like that, I'll just lay on the ground and give them a knife and fork.
Yep, just let them get on with it. Absolutely. Times once more. It's been long known that elephants are some of the smartest creatures in the animal kingdom. So smart, in fact, apparently they've cured cancer or something.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, it's great when you read these sort of curing cancer stories. There seem to be a lot of them. What I would like is some of these curing cancer stories to actually... go, oh yeah, now here's your pill.
Yeah, because
I totally agree. It's like every week there's hey, we found something that's going to unlock the cure to cancer, but I'm not seeing...
Never actually happens,
Yeah, where's the thing?
But how have elephants cured cancer?
Well, this is all interesting because it's basically the replication of cancer cells obviously spreads the cancer through, and because we only have 2 types of cells that will prevent that.
Right.
It turns out that elephants have about 40 of these things that can sort of spot the cancer cells and deal with them. So
Guardian of the genome.
The genome, yeah. So they've got 40 because they're obviously a larger animal as well.
Yes.
So they're sort of basically more effective at treating cancer internally and dealing with it before it becomes a tumour or whatever. So they're now looking into that and sort of finding out and maybe seeing if we can just inject us with some elephants.
Well, that's a lot less interesting. I was imagining elephants in the lab in coats sort of cracking the serum that will... No?
Interestingly, no.
Pharmaceuticals.
Wait a minute, I haven't read the full article. Let me see if it's no... Sorry, mate.
Well, look, we're going to get one more story in, and this is the classic bedtime tale. Goodness me. Raoul Moat back in the headlines. Why, Dana?
So a ghoulish bench memorial to shotgun-toting killer Raoul Moat sparks a Twitter meltdown. So Raoul Moat made headlines in July 2010 when he shot and killed his ex-girlfriend and her new partner and the police officer in the face who went blind and killed himself 2 years later. So I'm guessing that this must be a joke. I can't actually imagine how he would get a bench.
That was a really sad story because the police officer was blinded, survived, did a lot of important work for charity, you know,
and then committed suicide.
And because of the trauma, lost his wife. You know, I mean, it's a horrible story. But why is this a joke? Someone setting up a memorial bench? Is it a joke that's gone wrong? A prank? Is it someone who has a twisted admiration for him? What's going on?
I don't know, but I think that they need to find out who put. If it came through official channels, like a part, you know, that they need to find out who did. Or if it was someone who just got this kind of printed up somehow, you know, engraved, and then went and screwed it into the bench or something.
But I remember at the time there were some sort of kind of, I suppose they were pre-incels, weren't they, at the time, who were sort of trying to defend him and saying, like, this is a man who's just reached the end of his tether and all this kind of weird things surrounding this murder. Well, no, he was a man who killed people. This is
conspiracy theories and...
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. If
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that we immortalized a killer.
This is true.
Statues.
And in a very English way as well, on a bench.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know. I think get rid of the bench. I think I wouldn't sit on this bench. I think it's grim.
Give him a curb.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. Anyway, thank you so much. That's all we've got time for. Thank you so much to my panellists, Josh Howie and Dana Alexander. And please do join us tomorrow for Headliners at 11 o'clock again, where Simon Evans will be joined by Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. And don't forget to check out my show every Sunday, Free Speech Nation, at 7 o'clock. See you tomorrow. Bye.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan Tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate, and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your